Today, we're going to be talking influential writing. If there's one skill more than any other that's contributed more money, more influence, more things that I want in my life, it's the ability to influence people through writing. And I'm well known for the One-Page Marketing Plan book. If you've read it, awesome. If you haven't read it, then you've got an opportunity to read it there. But I want to talk today more about how we can influence people with our writing, not so much necessarily from a book perspective, although from a book perspective, it's really good as well, but more so with the stuff that we need to do daily as marketers and as business owners. So every single day, you're going to be writing emails, you're going to be writing messages to people, you're going to be writing sales pages, you're going to be writing copy and emails and things like that. And your goal in most circumstances is to bend people to your will. So get people to do what you want. So chances are that you and I are going to have to write every single day and influence people to do what we want them to do. We want people to buy from us. We want people to maybe do something on our behalf. We want people to be employees who get things done, and so on and so forth. And so sharpening this skill could be worth millions of dollars to you. I know it has been for me. And so chances are every single day you're going to write something and your goal is to influence people. You're going to be writing every day. And the question is, how effective are you going to be at it? And I'm not here to teach you flowery writing or writing great literature and all of that, because that's not my skill. My skill is influence. My skill is all about how do we get people to do what we want them to do. And that's the kind of writing that we're going to be talking about today. So we're not talking about great literature. We're not talking about writing amazing prose and all of that sort of stuff. What we're talking about here today is how do we get people to do the stuff that we want them to do. Really, what we're talking about today is really hacking the human brain. So why is it so important to master words? The reason it's so important to master words is words are the operating system of the human brain. What do I mean by that? So if we want to program computers, we use computer code. If we want to program human beings, we're going to use words to do that. We're going to use words to program people to do what we want them to do, to influence people. And when I say getting people do what we want to do, we're not saying in an evil manner or anything like this, although it could be used that way. These are very powerful techniques. And so I encourage you to only use these skills for good, not evil. But like anything, it's a tool. So I could use a hammer to create something really good, be really creative, create beautiful furniture or whatever, or I could use it to hurt someone. So it's simply a tool. So I urge you to use these tools for good, not for evil. They're very powerful. But either way, you need to know these tools if you're going to be successful in marketing and successful in business. So I'm going to give you 3 ways that we can combat the biggest issue that most people have, is what I call page fright, right? So you're staring at a blank page or a blinking cursor and you don't know what to write. Where it's not that we've got writer's block, it's that we're worried that we're going to suck. What we're going to write is going to be crappy, or it's not going to work, we're going to look silly, or whatever it is. So one of the things that I do is I keep a swipe file. Now, what's a swipe file? A swipe file is whenever you see a sales page, a phrase, a subject line, a headline, something that you found interesting or caught your attention, or you like the way that it's being said, or something that you've read that is going to be useful somewhere down the track, I keep a file of that. No, it's not a physical file. I used to keep a physical swipe file. Now I've gone all digital. So I will take a screenshot if it's on my phone, or I will copy the web page down or whatever. And so I keep a very extensive swipe file. So for example, if I need to come up with a subject line for an email, and I just can't think of anything off the top of my head, I'll go to my swipe file for inspiration. I don't necessarily copy and paste exactly what I've got there. In fact, I rarely do that, but I use it as a starter, as inspiration. So I look at some of the best subject lines that I've seen in the past, and I use those as inspiration. Or for example, if I'm writing copy, so maybe I'm writing a sales page, I'll go through my swipe file of sales pages that I found very compelling, that did a good job. What I urge you to do is what I call active reading. A lot of people do passive reading. For example, you're reading a book, you see something that's really interesting, whatever. Most people will, at the most, just do a Kindle highlight or highlight it or whatever, and never really go back to it. What I do is I copy and paste that phrase or passage or that idea or whatever into my swipe file. And so that way I've got it when I need it the most. So when I'm ready to write or put something together, I've got it ready in my swipe file for inspiration. And like I said, I'm not saying that you should copy other people's work or just copy and paste wholesale, but use it as inspiration because it can be a really great starting point. So be an active reader. When you're reading, copy and paste the ideas, the phrases. If you see something written in an interesting way, a really good headline, a subject line, or anything like that, start a swipe file because you're going to really thank yourself for when you need inspiration. And next is something that's called copy work. This used to be done by old school writers, and it's not done very much anymore, but it's a very powerful technique. The technique is basically you literally word for word by hand copy the work of great writers. Why? Because you want to feel what kind of words are going to be powerful in your presentation, what kind of copy is going to work for you. So if you write the words of some other great writer, that can be such a great starting point. And you don't have to write for hours and hours. It can be like for 10 minutes, you can say, look, I'm going to copy the exact words of this excellent writer for 10 minutes. And that's really going to get the juices flowing in your mind, and it can really inspire you to level up your writing. If you're writing a really good sales letter, so some of the great sales letter writers like Gary Halbert, you can basically find some of his sales letters on the internet and just literally copy them word for word by hand, and that'll give you some inspiration to get started. I love this technique. I use it from time to time. And in particular, if you're new to writing copy and sales copy, this can be really powerful. So find some of the classic sales letters from past copywriters and just copy them word for word by hand. Just do it for 10 minutes. Just do it for 5 minutes. And I think you get a real understanding for how great words and how great writing are written. The third thing is to give yourself permission to suck because the first draft of pretty much anything is going to suck. And there's a saying that says, write drunk, edit sober. The magic is in the edit. So where words become really good is usually in the edit. So here's what I recommend. Don't write and edit at the same time. So just get all your words out on paper or on the computer or whatever you're using to write. Just get the thoughts and ideas out, get your inspiration, get all the words out on the page. It's going to suck. It's just the first draft. The magic is in the editing. And mostly what you're going to find in the editing is that you're going to be cutting out a lot of stuff. So many times people will be excessively verbose in their writing. So a lot of what I do when it comes to editing is I'm cutting out a lot of words. Why? Because I want you to think about it this way, that words almost have a cost associated with them. So what we want to do is make every word count. Now, if we can write a sentence in 8 words instead of 18 words, that massively increases the effectiveness of your words. So think about it this way. Imagine you had to pay money for every word that you wrote. Now you would start to really think about, okay, how do I shorten my sentences? How do I create more impact with fewer words? A lot of times, if we use a lot of excessive words, our message gets lost. Fewer words, bigger impact. There's a famous quote. He wrote a long letter and he said, I would have written a shorter letter had I had more time. So meaning that he's written a lot of words, but he didn't really have time to edit. And so it is with our writing. We really want to be as dense as possible. Next is what I call a dual readership path. This is such a powerful technique and very important. So what we want to do is we want to write for people who read every single word, because there will be part of our audience who reads every single word, but there'll also be a part of our audience who are skimmers, who are in a hurry. Okay, what's the summary? What's the action? And you'll notice in my book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, you're going to notice that I have a headline throughout the book every maybe 500 or 600 words. And it's pretty unusual for a book. Usually books are stacked with text between chapters. So there's a chapter and then there's a block of text. So here's an example of a copy from somebody else. Now, you look at this is a large block of text. This is hard to read. It's intimidating. Like, you look at it and sure, of course you can read it, but pages and pages of blocks of text just make it really hard to read. And I can't get a very quick summary of this. I've got to read every word to get the sense of it. Now, here's a screenshot from my book. You'll notice I've got headlines very often. Like, you'll see sometimes it's only 3-4 paragraphs and then I've got a new headline. So you could skim this very easily. So I'm talking about what this is about. I'm saying running out of oxygen really sucks. Here are 3 phases of your marketing journey. And notice we're using space to break the text up. So it's much easier on the eyes. Somebody who's skimming can easily get the sense of what I'm talking about. They don't have to read every single word. I'm using short sentences. Notice most of my sentences are maybe 8 to 10 words long. When you go back and look at this looks a lot harder and intimidating to read than something like this, because this looks like I can quickly skim it. I can get the sense of it, short sentences, short paragraphs, and the headlines are designed to pull people back into their copy. And so the headlines are designed for skimmers, but they're also designed to pull people back into the copy. Next is what I call the greased slide. And the greased slide is all about what action we want people to take next. What is the one single visible action that we want people to take? People try to do too much with their copy. So for example, people write an ad and they're telling people the features and the benefits and how good they are and when they started their business in 1976 and how much better they are than the competition and all of that sort of thing. And so they try to do too much. The greased slide is all about how can I take this person from this step to the next step. So for example, if I'm writing an ad, the only thing I want people to do is click on that ad. I don't want to tell them about all the features and benefits and all of that sort of stuff. The only thing I want them to do is click that ad. Now, when they click that ad, they might hit a landing page. Now, again, I have only one single action that I want them to do when they hit the landing page is opt in. So that's all I want them to do. And so all the way we're wanting to think about what is the whole journey that we want to take them through. When the person clicks the ad, then we're going to take them to a landing page. Then the landing page, we want them to opt in. Then when they opt in, we're going to send them a sequence. And then as a result of the sequence, we want them to hit reply to one of our emails, or we want them to hit the order page or whatever it is. So at every stage, we're thinking about the one physical, visible action that we want them to take. And that's it. We're not taking them through the whole entire journey in one hit. So what's the one physical, visible action you want them to take as a result of your email, your sales page, your website copy, whatever it is? And so let me show you an example. I went through my email and I had a look at some emails that I received and some really bad headlines. So here are examples of bad headlines. Inflation, 4 case studies. Are you in online courses? Question mark. Newsletter, April. Old Richmond seller newsletter. Are these compelling headlines? Are these compelling subject lines? Not really. They probably got deleted. In fact, I could tell you pretty much for 100% chance they got deleted without reading. These are not compelling headlines. So many people waste the opportunity to suck people into their copy with their headlines, with their subject lines, and it's just such a wasted opportunity. Now I'm going to show you some examples of amazing headlines. And some of these are obviously sensational and a little bit funny, but these are really good headlines I've come across. So, amazing secret discovered by one-legged golfer, adds 50 yards to your drives, eliminates hook slices, and can slash up to 10 strokes from your game overnight. Now, if I'm a golfer, that is very compelling. I want to find out, how do I slash 10 strokes from my game? This is a funny one I came across the other day. How one very lucky Enron exec made $280 million by impregnating a stripper, destroying his marriage and losing his job. I want to know that story. As sensational and clickbaity as that is, I want to know what it is. There's a newspaper in Australia called the NT News in the Northern Territory, and they always come up with outrageous headlines. They're just known for it. And so here's one, a little bit crude. why I stuck a cracker up my clacker. Crazy, ridiculous headlines. But hey, I want to know what's going on. What's in that story? I'm going to click, or I'm going to open that newspaper. I'm going to read what is going on here. These are compelling headlines that people want to read. Now, you don't have to be over the top and outrageous, but the point is that you want to get attention and create curiosity and start that conversation with your ideal audience. Next, I want to talk about screw nuance. Now, here's the mistake that a lot of people make. They try to be a little bit too nuanced. So for example, I'll often read a review of multiple products before I select which one I want to buy. What a lot of people do is they try to be nuanced. They say, look, depending on your situation, this might be a better one, or that one might be better. And they list the features and benefits. That's not what I want. No one can give data better than the internet. Every one of us have got Google. We can all get infinite amount of data and information on anything that we want. What I want from someone that I'm looking for an opinion on is what I should do. If you're the car expert, I say, look, here's my situation. What car should I buy? I want you to say, look, you need to buy this specific model and this car, and this is why. So I don't want you to be nuanced and give me all the information, because I can get the data and information. I don't need a person to give me the information. And so it's so important that you have an opinion, that you lead people, tell them what to do. That's part of being a thought leader. So part of being a thought leader is not being nuanced. Okay, maybe if you're in this situation, do this or whatever. People are coming to you for advice and to be led. So tell them what to do. Next is this one. It's write at a grade 8 level. Most people never read a book after they leave school. And what we want to do is write with very simple words, use very simple sentences. This is a little app online. It's called Hemingway. And you can copy and paste your writing and see what the readability level is. So is it a grade 8? Is it a grade 6 or whatever? So always write at a grade 8 or lower level. So if your stuff comes up too complex, again, using flowery language and weird words and phrases and things like that, this app will tell you. It's so much more important to be clear than clever. So if you've got the option between saying something in a humorous way or a way that's designed to entertain and all of that, but it's going to make your stuff unclear, don't do it. Always choose clear over clever. One of the reasons I believe that Trump was so influential and so effective at communicating, and look, this is not political. I don't care if you support Trump, you like Trump, you don't like Trump, irrelevant. The point is he communicates in a very clear manner that anybody can understand, and that's a huge part of his success. I want to play you a little video example of this, and it's a little bit humorous. It's designed that way, but this was on, I think, SNL. But it'll give you an example of the difference between how Trump communicates and how some other politicians did. So I'll play the little clip.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
The United States launched a targeted operation against that compound.
They did a lot of shooting, and they did a lot of blasting, even not going through the front door. You know, you think you go through the door. If you're a normal person, you say, knock, knock, may I come in?
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
But his death does not mark the end of our effort.
A beautiful dog, a talented dog.
We give thanks.
Isn't it interesting how Obama communicates like a politician? He uses words like, we took custody of his body. Nobody talks like that other than politicians. Whereas Trump said very simple words. There was a lot of shooting and a lot of blasting. Anybody can understand that. To me, that illustrates one of the reasons why he was so influential. And like I said, look, some people like him, some people don't like him, whatever. And I don't care about the politics, but I do care to see an example of someone who's influential. And so this, take from that what you will, but like using simple, easy to understand words and language is super, super powerful. I want to give you another example in terms of a book title. So of clear versus clever. Now here's a book title where I suspect they're trying to be clever. So it's the Modern Writer's Guide, 365 Vision, how to produce more quality writing in less time. Does anybody understand what the heck is inside that book? What is a 365 vision? Who the heck knows? Nobody really. And like I said, I'm not here to be mean or show anyone up, but this is very unclear. I have no idea what this book is about. I have no idea how it's going to create value in my life. I have no idea why I would even want to read it. Here's an example of a really good book title. The book title is "This Book Will Teach You How to Write Better," right? So this is very simple language, very simple words. And he says, this book is short, effective, and will help you write better after reading it. Pretty simple, right? So both of these are copywriting books, and one tells you what it's actually about, how it's going to make my life better, what I should do next. And by the way, Neville Medora is an excellent copywriter, so his stuff is really good too. Next is always make it about them, because too many people talk about themselves and talk about how good they are and talk about how they're going to do this or that, when they started their business, all of that sort of stuff. Make it about them always, not about you. So I want to know what's in it for me, how it's going to make my life better. I want to show you an example of a cold email. Cold email is something that you're probably going to have to do sometime in your business life. Now I'm going to show you an example of a really good one that I actually responded to and that I worked with that person. It starts with a subject line, "You're exactly what my listeners need." So that caught my attention. Then I see that he's personalized it. It says, "Hi, Allan. After seeing your book pop up enough times and then hearing you on the Self-Publishing School podcast, I realized that your message should be essential listening for my listeners. I've never experienced such a seamless way to explain marketing of a business before, all the way from calculating CLV to creating better systems to improve customer satisfaction. I wish I had read your book when I first started." So couple of things. So he's using a bit of flattery without being over the top. Too much flattery is counterintuitive, but more importantly, he proves that he actually listened to the episodes. Then he proceeds, "I've been looking for someone who can dive deeper into these subjects with our listeners, consisting of mostly authors in the US looking to build a business with their book because of how crucial I found them to be on my own journey." So he's basically telling me about his audience. And I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good audience for me. Next, "I'd love to promote you and the one-page marketing plan on Before the Bestseller, a top 2% podcast." So he's making it very clear what's in it for me. Why should I spend an hour with this guy? He doesn't talk about himself. He's talking about me and what's in it for me. I interview today's top authors such as Mike Michalowicz of Profit First, and he mentions some authors that he knows that I know. I have a personal relationship with Mike Michalowicz. I know who Daniel Pink is. I'm like, that's good social proof. The people that I know and respect have been on his podcast. So that's pretty good social proof. I'm much more likely to go on a podcast where some of my other colleagues and people that I know and respect have been on. The next line, and I like this a lot. He says, "I know visionaries like yourself like to be efficient and effective with their time." So he's acknowledging the value of my time. "So I'll make sure everything is buttoned up ahead of time so that all you have to do is click a link, answer a few questions, and go on with your day, changing lives." How good is that? So many times I've been on a podcast where the host is basically wastes half an hour of my time getting their microphone and it's not recording, or my camera is not working, or whatever. So this guy, he's going to get ready. He's going to make sure that everything's set to go. He's not going to waste my time. I'm going to get on, do my thing, and come off. Beautiful. So he knows some of the objections that might come up already. He says, "If you're open to it, feel free to reply to me or forward me onto a virtual assistant or a link to a booking." So what he does is he gives me a very easy way to respond. So all I have to do is reply and say yes, or what I actually did was forward it to my assistant, and then she organized all the logistics. So it makes it really easy for me to respond and say yes. And I did, and I appeared on his podcast. So that's today's training. We've got certification coming up in June as well. If you are interested in really going a deep 12-week dive into the one-page marketing plan, we cover everything pretty much. In 12 weeks, it's like an MBA on becoming a marketer. What we've covered today is like 1% of what we would cover in certification. I run that live as well with my team. It's a great way for us to connect. Thank you so much for attending today, and looking forward to connecting with you all. Bye for now, everybody.